Hi, guys, and welcome to the Women's Health Summit, where you're gaining clarity so you can lead with confidence and finally turn that passion into profit. I'm Laura Sherrill, a high-performance women's health coach and the founder of Balanced Bombshells, and today I'm here with Hilary Hartling, who's a business coach and brand strategy expert. She spent 15 years marketing movies from Pixar, Disney, Marvel, and DreamWorks, and helping launch multi-million-dollar franchises and managing global brands with fiercely loyal fans. So today I'm so excited for her to share her knowledge and just how we can build a brand that basically resonates with your dream audience. So Hilary, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh my gosh, it's so fun to be here. And hello to everyone who's here for this online summit. I just want to give you kudos and acknowledgement for doing this at this time when I think it's so needed by everybody.
Yes. And it's just so fun because like the women are learning what they want to teach in women's health, how they want to create that brand. Very soul-centered women who want to use their passion to help other women and create obviously like a financially abundant business around it. So why don't you start by sharing like how you got started in your business and why?
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of a story behind that because I worked at Disney for 15 years and sorry, there was like a motorcycle happening.
You're
I
fine.
I worked at Disney for about 15 years and I did brand strategy there. I did integrated marketing. I did synergy partnerships and creative content production. And it was all for telling the story to inspire the audience, right? And so I loved that. And I've always wanted to be around a brand, a business, an opportunity to share an experience and to share a feeling and to touch people emotionally. And that's what movies allowed me to do. So what happened in my career there is like I created my dream job. But once I got to the top of that dream job and I thought, oh, I can't grow anymore in this position. Is there anything else for me here? There wasn't another job that I wanted because I literally had designed and created my own dream job of everything I wanted to do. So when you stop growing, I don't know if you've talked about this week with mindset work or wellness or anything, when you stop growing, you immediately feel stuck.
We haven't talked about it, but I feel like that's like a perfect cue up because so women are at a point where they're either in their 9 to 5 and they're feeling that calling of, I know I'm meant to be doing something else and this job isn't it, or they're looking to scale and move further along. So they're understanding what that stuck feeling is. So I
Yeah.
think it's a great emotion to tap into because it sounds like it helped you pivot in your career.
It did, yeah. Stuckness doesn't feel good ever. You always want to be growing. You always want to be moving. You want some momentum. I mean, it's not a lie when people say, enjoy the journey or trust the process. It's really, that's where we are our best because we're trying to achieve something. Once you achieve it, the trick is you have to have the next dream, the next goal. I didn't. I
Mm.
had I had reached my biggest goal at Disney. I mean, I was, in meetings presenting marketing plans to Steve Jobs and Bob Iger and all these amazing filmmakers who just are such beautiful talents. And I was like, I'm going to leave. But
Right.
I did. I needed to leave because I decided the next biggest dream was to be my own boss. I've I had always wanted to be my own
Yeah.
boss, and I did.
Preach. Yeah, you're preaching to the choir.
Yeah, and I did not immediately say, let me go off and start my own brand strategy business. It really evolved over time in trial and error and in really listening to my audience, which is one of the number one things that you need to do to create and establish and grow a brand.
Right.
So I basically went from dream job to taking some time off and have a dream lifestyle, and then designing and starting my dream business.
Which I think is so beautiful because like very few people I think give themselves that grace to be able to also acknowledge like, hey, I've reached my peak here and like, yes, I've been hustling. Yes, this has been my dream for so long, but to want to be able to shift that into something else that like you can't put your finger on it yet. Like that's how I felt. I'm like, because we were talking before, like I worked in professional fundraising where I didn't tell any of my coworkers or anyone that I was like teaching. I had been studying health and wellness for like, I
Yeah.
guess it was like 7 or 8 years at that point. And I didn't talk about it. I really just used it for myself. And I would talk to friends and they would always ask me like, oh, what can I do for more energy or help me with my period? And, stuff like that. And it's just like, it's something deep inside you that says like, you're meant for something more. And like, when we talked about like that soulful connection or your mindset, I started meditating, and I would have these. So I'm curious to know if like any sort of your mindset work helped bring this about, because I would meditate and I would like come out of the meditation and all I saw was myself leading workshops to other women to help them feel good about themselves. And I actually rejected those thoughts. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be up talking in front of people. That's not for me. That's scary. That's uncomfortable. So you like dim it down until all along the way, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm becoming an angry person at work, in my life. I'm literally not saying yes to myself.
Yeah.
So when did you notice, like, mindset wise, it was time to let go of the old job?
Yeah, well, this is what happened is in my last probably 2 to 3 years there, I knew I needed to figure out what was next. But what happens when you're, I mean, it's for those who have been in corporate, it's this all consuming, that's your whole world kind of situation, right? When I think
Drinking
about
the
even,
Kool-Aid is like a good,
oh,
like you're in the organization, like you're with it. You've drinking that
yeah,
Kool-Aid.
but the Kool-Aid's coming out of a fire hose.
Yeah, for
Like
sure. Yeah.
that, right? Hamster wheel time. So like when I was trying to dream bigger, when I was stuck in that situation, which was stuck is a bad word too, because it's like, it literally was my dream job. It was like, you can only dream as big as your current circumstance. So I was thinking like, oh gosh, maybe I should dive further into the international side of the movie business, or maybe I should do more digital social campaigns and not just the TV productions that I was doing to help promote the movie. So I was thinking inside the box and not outside the box. So it wasn't until I had just gotten so frustrated with, because, you know, the job was good, but some of the leaders maybe were not. And I was getting frustrated with the situation at work. And I finally decided, you know what? I'm going to go. It's time for me to go. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to go. And so I started Googling. I will remember January 1st, 2015 on my Google. And I said something about what mid-career transitions or something. I don't know what I was Googling, but a questionnaire popped up. And the first question on there was, what would you do if you were 10 times bolder? And I
That's a great
immediately
question.
knew my answer. And it was, I would quit my job. I would not have another job to go to. I would take 1 year off. I would start writing again. I would start traveling again. I would reconnect with myself and my inspiration and my desires and what I truly wanted. And that would reveal my next step. And 2 weeks later, I was laid off in an organizational restructure, and I got paid for a year.
Oh my gosh. I'm literally like crying inside. That
Yep.
is unreal. And like so true of like, once you decide, like the universe will find a way to open up and make it happen.
Yeah.
Because like entrepreneurship is scary. So the fact that like, oh, so did you like let go of your like wherever you were living and just go travel? So you had money to travel? Like how did that work?
Well, so I got paid for a year, but on top of that, because I was such a workaholic, I never took any vacation or sick days. So I got $12,000 just for vacation and sick days.
Yes. I
So
mean, I mean, not great because you didn't take the time, but also really great because you got like the financial payout.
yeah, so I basically used that as like my travel money. And I, you know, a month in Australia and New Zealand, I visited friends, and I'm from Hawaii. So I grew up there. So I went back to Hawaii. I went to Virginia Beach with all my grad school girlfriends, Amsterdam, just places just to visit people and see new things. And I renovated my front and backyard at the house I owned, and I learned feng shui, and I took myself to lavender farms and learned how to pick lavender. I started writing and meditating, and all kind, just whatever I wanted is what I did. It was
Oh
fabulous.
my gosh. What an awesome story. And like, what a blessing for like,
Yeah.
of course it stinks like you're losing your job, but clearly the universe was like, you need to figure out something else and we're going to support you along the way. Oh my
And
gosh.
I
I love
literally
that.
asked for it. Like I
Yeah.
manifested in 2 weeks
Yeah.
exactly
Well,
what I
I think it
wanted.
was probably all along the way. And
It was
like,
coming.
it was like, sometimes I feel like it happens quick because you decide, you like decide in that moment what you want and you kind of let it go. And like, it's just really fun that it showed up 2 weeks later.
I know. I literally think it's like the process for me, usually for a manifestation, is you dream it, you decide it, you declare it,
Yeah.
you have to believe it's possible.
Yes.
And then literally it will happen.
Yes. You then let it go. I feel like the last part is like letting it go and just trusting.
You give it to the universe. Yeah.
Or so whenever I'm manifesting, I always end it with like this or something better.
Yes, that's a perfect way to do it, because sometimes you cannot dream what is going to be the biggest dream for you.
Right. So, oh gosh, I love this. We're going to talk about so many things today.
Yay.
So to dive a little into branding, because now you finally figured out you want to do branding, just to get this out of the way, because I feel like it probably comes up in people's minds all the time, especially when you're just getting started or you're recognizing I'm attracting the wrong people or like something's not working. What are the biggest mistakes you notice that people make with their branding?
I have 5 for you.
Let's get into it. Just drop it.
So mistake number 1 is thinking everyone is your customer.
Yes.
And I'm sure this has been talked about before, but literally like everyone makes this mistake because they're either afraid of leaving money on the table, because you could serve these people and those people and these people over here and those people over there. But getting specific and choosing your target audience really helps you create better messaging. Yeah. It helps. You can't please everybody. So when you try to reach everybody, you're watering your message down so much that you end up serving no one, reaching no one, resonating with no one.
Right. Well, we haven't really talked too much about branding in this, but the one thing that we have touched on is that women are not a demographic. Like that's not your target audience is women. Like there's so many different kinds of women. So like, cause we're definitely talking to women who want to help women. So like to reiterate that women is not your audience.
And I'll tell you, there are two ways that I kind of think about how to really get down to that niche. And a lot of people tend to start with demographics, which as a marketing person you totally get, but for other people it's, when you get down to that, like, oh, she's 20 years old to 35, she lives in a city, I'm not a huge fan of that. If you know that information, that's fine. It's icing on the cake. I am more interested in the psychographics of your person, which means what are her ambitions? What are her goals? That will create a niche for you. Yeah. What do they believe in? What do they care about? What do they desire? Those are the people that you want to start talking to. And it's going to be different for every kind of business, but psychographics is really how you dial down into who it's for, because you're speaking to their inner desires and ambitions. Right.
And like, just to know, like the more niche down you can get, the better. So like, I knew something was working early on when I was starting to, like, I would get on the phone with these potential clients and I would literally almost kind of start to cry of just pure joy. Cause I was like, I have not had many conversations of women that I would not take on as clients. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, my messaging is like, it's working, but it's very clear. I did not want the women who were looking for quick fixes with their health. I was not going to be working with women who didn't already eat well and exercise. I didn't, like, there's so many other brands and women who can help motivate them to get the starting point. I'm for the woman who like already does those things and realizes that she wants to get even better, and I'm going to help her get to the next level. Like that's who I'm for. But if I didn't know that, like
you'd attract all kinds of people. Yeah, no, like same with me. It's like, you might like the idea of helping people start their businesses, start their brands, start their thing. But if you don't know the business you're going into, I can't help you brand it.
Right.
Right. Right. Like some people are like, I'm trying to figure out, and I mean, maybe that's a free bonus I need to create, like really how to figure out what business to go into based on your skills, experience, gifts, talents that you have, that kind of thing. But you got to know, but oftentimes it's better to be in business for at least, I don't know, 6 months to a year at least, so that you know a little bit something about who you do like to work with. If you can't just figure it out on paper, sometimes it is good to work with some people to see why you like working with them.
Right. Because you're going to know real quick if you're like, man, this client is bothering me. I can't stand getting on the phone with them. Like, what is it about them that is pushing a button that you need to basically, of course, honor your contract, but make sure that whoever you're tracking in the future is not that. Because like we talked a little bit, like everything is an energy exchange. Like who you work with you're inviting that energy into your life, just like they're inviting you. Like, it's definitely a partnership and exchange.
Yeah.
So you said there was 5 mistakes, and so that was the first one. Yeah,
The
that's only
second,
number 1.
I know, you guys. Oh my gosh. Mistake number 2 is starting with your logo.
Yep.
Which I get it, right? It's like you
Yeah.
start your business. It's like you apply for your LLC or however you're categorizing your business or sole proprietorship or whatever you're doing. And then the very next thing you want to do is like, I need a website and a business card. So that means I need a logo. And no, so many of us want to speed up that process because we really want to feel official. But if you have a website design or a logo that you feel like you want to update every 15 minutes or change it in some way, it's because you haven't taken this time to work out the strategy for your brand and to understand what it stands for, why your business exists in the first place, your mission, the vision, that big, lofty, aspirational goal that you're headed towards, literally all the things that make up your brand strategy, because strategy informs design, strategy informs style, strategy informs messaging and your offers too. Like, it starts with strategy.
Oh, I love that. Have you ever taken the Strengths Finder test?
I have, but it was so long ago, I don't remember my result. And I have not taken Enneagram, and I just
Okay.
did human design, if you know about that,
No.
and I'm a generator.
Oh, I don't know what that one is. But the Strengths Finder was actually really cool. I did it at my old job, and my number 1 strength was strategy. So I'm like, I'm so good on strategy. Like, whether you want that for your health, your life, your work, like whatever you need,
Yeah.
I love strategy. But I love what you say too about not having your logo or anything set yet. So like when I first got started, I literally did not know what it was going to be. So I
Mhm.
got started with my first and my middle name. I built like a website. I took, got the Instagram handle. It wasn't until a year into business while I was side hustling, because I spent a year working on the business while I was in my job. And I hired an online marketing coach, and we were just kind of riffing on stuff. And like, I literally kid you not, this is when you know that everything like comes together. I had like the messaging down. I knew like how everything was going to form and come together.
Yep.
And my grand dream and vision that I have been dreaming about since I was 7 years old was to own an empire. And it was literally around having a lot of products and programs and services and merchandise for women and creating a lifestyle around healthy living, whatever that would be. So as I was talking to this marketing coach, and this is like spirituality times 10.
Yeah.
Writing stuff down, I literally had this moment where the pen took over my hand.
Yeah.
These words did not come from me, and it wrote balance bombshells. And in my mind's eye, I literally started seeing all of these women coming out of their workout classes, smiling, wearing a balance bombshells t-shirt, having like a, cute little water holder that says balance bombshells. And I like literally started crying. The next day, applied for a trademark.
Yeah.
Within a week, applied to have it as an LLC. And I was like, that's like so grounding and so confident. But that didn't come when I first started. It was a year into it.
Yeah, sometimes it comes later, and that's okay, because I think what you did is so beautiful, and that's something I would recommend to everybody on here too, is to just start. You got to start somewhere, and you can't start like you're a 5-year-old business and you can't compare yourself to other people doing it, because you have to start somewhere, and it will grow, and you will get more clear as it grows.
Right. Such good advice. You will get more clear as you go, because like, I think when you get started, like, you just don't know. You have absolutely no idea. I was like, I don't know if this is going to be a thing. I'm fighting with myself on teaching women's health. Like, I was so stuck in that mindset of like, I don't want to be that person always talking about PMS and periods, which is why I also like the lifestyle aspect of women's health, because I don't want to be that person. And that's okay. I don't think of women's health as just like our period. Like, I really don't. That's 1 week out of the entire month. There's so much more.
Yeah.
But there's going to be other women who do love that and who do want to take that on, and that's okay. Just getting started, I feel, well, I mean, how many women have you come up against in your time doing this that self-doubt and like not being clear stops them from getting started?
Yeah, I mean, when they're finally ready to hire me is when they've decided they're ready to dig in and do the work.
Yeah.
Because before then, they're stopping themselves, they're staying stuck, they're doing just enough. So yeah, like, clarity is the number one thing that you get from working out your brand strategy. It gives you clarity, and it gives you the confidence to move forward. And it also pulls together your brand so it's cohesive and then also compelling.
Yes. Oh, cohesiveness. We'll come back to that one because
Okay.
I feel like that's another one we can get into a huge rabbit hole. But I want to make sure we get all of the 5 mistakes in. But we're going to come back to cohesiveness.
I know, that was 2. So number 3 mistake is leading with features versus benefits. So this shows up like this, like, and a lot of people don't know any better when they're first starting, but when someone asks you about what you do, a lot of people will dive right into the details, which is like the what you get. So like a coach might say something like, it's a 6-month coaching program with Zoom calls just like this every other week in a private Facebook group. Those are features of what you sell. Those are features of your offer, you know. And if you're going to talk about the benefits, you would say something along the lines of, my coaching program helps you finally feel good in your skin, confident, and helps you pull those skinny jeans off the top shelf you've been saving for the last 3 years. Those are benefits.
Yes.
Right.
And like women want that.
People like the benefits is what sells them. And so if you lead with the benefits and then leave the features for later, then you actually, I mean, the benefits, the why is why people buy.
Right.
So
well, because that's what they're getting. So like if you go to the store and you're picking up a protein powder or something, like, you know what you're getting. Yeah. With like coaching or, you know, any other type of like online based business, like it's not as tangible. So like I love, leading with the benefits, especially in like
even in a tangible product. I could say like someone might have like a skincare product or something, and they could say like, it's all natural, it's toxic free, and it comes in a variety of scents or something like that. And those are features. Yeah. And like benefits of that could be, oh my gosh, your skin is going to be glowing and so smooth that your man won't be able to keep his eyes and hands off you.
Yeah. Like getting into those attributes too, of like the desire that they would then receive in their life by using that skincare. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the ultimate benefit. Okay. Mistake number 4, and I touched on this briefly, so we don't have to spend too much time on it, but mistake number 4 is that comparison is going to knock you off course.
Oh my God, for sure. Comparison literally robs you of all joy.
It does, because here's the thing, when you, and it happens a lot when you're first starting your business, because you're looking around to get inspiration to kind of figure it out. I usually say, if you're looking for inspiration for your brand, look outside your industry.
Oh my God. Yeah, we're going to get into that. Yes. Go ahead. Sorry.
You do not want to, first of all, you don't want to inadvertently copy somebody. Right. You want to make sure you're standing out as you. And it's like, if you look outside your industry, then you're not diving down the rabbit hole of, well, she does it this way, he does it that way, she does it this way. Maybe they know how to do it. When in fact, when your brand shines, it's because you are sharing your perspective. Yes. It's because you put your spin on it. Everyone, like, there's so many wellness brands in the world, but here's the thing. The magic of your brand is always you, because nobody has your experience, your strengths, your gifts, your talents all come together in this moment to finally deliver this as an offer to your audience.
Right. I love that you say, look outside your industry. Cause like when I was first getting started, it was like 4 years ago, there was not many women's health brands out there that targeted the millennial generation, like the younger generations. And the brands that did exist, I did not resonate because they always used the language of making me feel like something was wrong with me and it was my fault. And I'm like, women are already shamed in our life enough. I am not going to create something that's going to make them feel less than to try and sell a product or service. How icky and how gross. That's disgusting. So I asked myself, it took me quite a bit of like trial and error practicing with the messaging. And I finally asked myself, like, how are you using hormones? And I'm obsessed with personal development and like self-growth. So like, I actually always saw myself as a self-help author. Like when I was a teenager, I was like, that's my dream. So I was like, oh my God.
That was a teenage dream.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And by the time I graduated college, I was telling anyone who'd listened that I'd one day be like a self-help person. So here we are.
Honestly,
In a different
wellness
way.
is a version of self-help. So you're making your dreams come true.
Correct. Just very in a different way. And
Yeah.
so I was like, oh my gosh, I'm using hormones for
Yeah.
high performance, which is a self-help category.
Yes.
And so I'm like, oh my, and like, that's actually when things started clicking a lot more, when I was like, look, I'm going to take everything that's going on right now and make you 10 times better. And like, we can do that with just making some shifts in your lifestyle and like getting to know your body and like, you know, get under the hood.
Yeah.
It came from looking outside of the industry, because I was like, this is boring. This is a snooze fest. This is not what I want to be.
That's right.
And it's, oh, I love that. That's the first time I've actually heard someone else like put it into words.
Yeah. No, I prefer it. Like my branding is a big part of what sells people on my business, because that's what I help them do, right? So it's like, what is the experience they're getting? What is the feeling you're getting? So if you go to my website, you get a certain feeling for who I am, because I'm going to attract the people who also like that feeling, that experience. And so the industry I look to is just my other passion, which is like interior design. Like I'm looking at Magnolia, I'm looking at West Elm, I'm looking at even Pottery Barn, whatever it might be. Like that's given me like some yummy feelings that I want to translate into my brand too.
And because your website is beautiful. Like I remember landing on it and like, it did feel like an experience. Like I felt calm, I felt taken care of, I felt understood. And then I was reading more about your background and I was like, not only does she have this like warm, calm nature about her, but she's a badass. So I was like, oh my, like it was just so nice how both of those elements come together, because I resonate with women like that so much. So, it sort of just came out. It was like jumps off the page and you can feel it.
I love that. Well, it's funny because I feel like when I was at Disney, and this is a whole nother topic, I'm sure, for your audience, which is amazing too, but like when I was at Disney, I was in my masculine all the time. I was very goal-oriented, results, driven, all of that stuff. And now in my own business, it's like I've finally embraced like my divine feminine for sure. Yeah. And it's more open, it's more collaborative, it's more appreciative. It's really thinking outside the box and allowing things to happen and never forcing.
Did you, when you left your job, did you notice that your health improved at all? Like your because like usually when we enter, I work with a lot of women who are very much stuck in their masculine. Used to be there. I feel like we've like all type A women driven, stuck in the masculine. When you enter that feminine, I feel like that's when life gets like really groovy. And like my health actually improved so much after I left my full-time job.
Yeah, mine did too. And I think I mean, it was almost like a breakup. I needed to take a month for every year I'd been there to really just like shake it off and recover. So I did go beyond my year. I did 15 months off before I even started looking at what I wanted to do next, which was fabulous. And actually the first thing I did was I became a certified high performance coach.
Oh my gosh. Was it under Brendan Burchard?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. He's like the leader on high performance. I just went to his event in February because it was in San Diego.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was standing in line with these women and they're like, what do you do? And I was like, oh, I teach women how to use their hormones for like high performance. And they're like, oh, you're in the right place. And it was just so interesting. I was like, man, I just loved connecting with people from that audience. Like
talk about your target audience, girl.
Even from the men wanted to hear it because we would talk about food and how they could use that to get more productive at work and more focus and more energy. And they're like, what's your email?
Just like, no, that's genius. You need to go to all of the, well, once events are happening.
Yeah, exactly. But it was the first time I'd been to one of his events. So like, I've
been to that one before.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Where was it?
Gosh, I think I've done most of his things. So I've done certified high performance coaching, experts academy, and high performance academy. Although I think he's renamed them now. So like there's an influencer event. And then I don't know if high performance is still called high performance or not.
It's like HPX.
That's what it is. It's high performance experience. Yeah.
No, but that's really cool to blend into your work because you get to basically call on your clients to work at a higher level, which is what people are looking for. We need that accountability.
Well, and I'll tell you to round out our mistakes, like here's when, and this is just a great example of my own mistake in making it, right? Because I'm a branding person and still made the mistake, is when I first started, I put my first website up and had my first offerings. I was like, hey, I could be a marketing consultant for you. I can help you with your branding and I'm a high performance coach. No one knew what to come to me for. You can't say all those things. So I started listening, and what people were hiring me for was brand strategy. So I called my business Brand Strategy. But the really cool thing is that within branding, you talk about marketing. And within branding, especially when you're developing your personal brand to put your own business out into the world for the first time or to grow it, you need coaching because mindset stuff comes up. You block yourself at every turn, and it's hard to see. It is 10 times harder to figure out your own brand all on your own.
Correct. I agree.
And so that's why I'm here for entrepreneurs.
Yeah. And so was that the fifth mistake?
The fifth mistake is being too clever instead of clear. You need to be clear. And, you need to like decide on the one thing you want to be known for and stick with it. Yeah. And you have to really like that thing.
Yeah. Well, and even just, it's interesting, like, because women will be like, well, how do I find that? Like, how do I know what my one thing is? Like, what are the questions that people are always asking you? And for me, it was cycle syncing, which is like a form. I don't know if you've heard of cycle syncing.
I haven't, but was that part of the hormones?
Oh, yeah. It's a natural way to balance your hormones where if you're into your divine feminine, you basically match. We have 4 phases of our cycle. So like menstrual phase is just one. Ovulation phase, which we know of, like, okay, that's the time we can't get pregnant. But then like before a period, it's called the luteal phase. And then after a period, it's called follicular. And so like, your brain chemistry changes each week. Your desires in life change. Your communication styles change. Your food preferences change. Your, like, everything shifts week to week, but it becomes predictable from cycle phase to cycle phase. So how you are in your menstrual week is going to be very similar to how you are the next time. We just get really confused as women because we don't know those subtle shifts. We don't know what to look for. So cycle syncing is when you can match, like, understand the phases of your cycle, match your food, match your fitness based on like what your energy is going to be like, it's basically going along the curve of how your hormones fluctuate throughout the month. It is fascinating. So that's what most women want to hear from me, either from the entrepreneur side or women who are looking for other ways to support their body.
Yeah.
It's just fascinating. So I was like, okay, well, we'll lead with that. I love talking about it.
Lead with what people are wanting from you for sure. And the fact that you know so much about it, like you're doing the thing that I think a lot of women, if they're thinking about starting their own health or wellness business or elevating the thing that they have now, it starts to basically all come together as one. It's like all the experience that you've had, the things that you've done that are stepping stones to finally lead here, where everything is converging to become the thing that you're going to be known for.
Well, and like, what makes you most excited? So like, I got so excited when we could talk about the lifestyle aspects of our bodies and our, like, how everything worked, but then also being able to be like, well, here's the science behind why it's happening.
Yes.
And like, as a type A woman, it gives you so much clarity and predictability on what your mood's going to be, what your energy is going to be like. And what's fascinating is like, when you start tuning into it, you start noticing your body start naturally balancing because you're basically listening to what your body wants you to do, which we are taught to tune out of course, which then lowers the symptoms that you've been having. It increases your energy. It makes you more excited. Your period improves. Like, it's really fascinating. So if you ever want to learn cycle syncing, it's really great for entrepreneurs.
Thank you. Well, I'm sure it is. I mean, why haven't we been taught this in school?
Well, I mean, hopefully there'll be a lot more women talking about it, and we can start educating the younger generation because, I mean, you can even I even partner my work activities to where I'm at in my cycle. I know when I'm going to communicate more effectively. And I used to test it while I was learning it. I was in my old job. So your ovulation phase is the time of the month where like your communication is spot on. So if you ever do videos, if you ever do podcasts, your ovulation phase, you will just articulate and communicate the most effectively. So I tried it out because I was like, okay, if the grounding principle is like, you can ask for anything that you want and you're going to receive it because you're super magnetic. Yeah. I'm going to test this out and ask for a raise during my ovulation phase. And like totally got it. And I was just like, that's great. Versus your menstrual, you want to be so inward, you can't actually articulate. So I should actually have my husband record me sometimes when I speak, because I'll stop and I'm like, I'm not making sense right now. So it's like, it's
that
literally
would be fascinating. It's so good. I mean, honestly, it's like leveraging your assets, right? It's
Yes.
like, hey, leverage them.
Yeah. So yeah, you'd probably love it with the work that you do too,
Yeah,
because it just becomes so much more fluid instead of like
that's great.
just fighting against yourself.
Yeah, that's the worst way to do it.
I know, because it just makes us so stressed out. What I love about your work is that you help women become very concise with their messaging. So I told you we'd come back to that cohesive, like concise part. Can you give a few tips on what that could look like in someone's brand?
Yeah, honestly, when I think about it, I think about it in the sense that you want to, for your brand message and cohesiveness, you want to love it, you want to know them, and you want to show them. So the love it is, if you're passionate about what you do, if you believe in the thing that you do, like you just said, like you could talk hours on hormones, right? It's like, if you love what you do and you have a passion for it, that will come across in your messaging. You will be authentic, you will be relatable, you will attract people because of the energy pouring out of you around the topic that you love. So the first thing you want to do in order to have like a clear and cohesive brand is literally to love what you're doing. That's like number one. The
Mm-hmm.
number two is like knowing them is identifying your ideal client. So we talked about before, a mistake is it can't be everyone, but you have to specifically know who they are, because everything you do in your brand to position it and create messaging after that is about who it's for and who it serves. And you want to, I mean, the best tip I know for doing this is, once you decide who you might like to work with, because if you think about the words ideal client, what that literally means is, who are your favorite people to work with?
Mm-hmm.
So decide who would be your favorite people to work with. Now go interview them. Go do some brand client calls and interview them. And all of the words that they're using to talk about the struggles or the desires that they have for what you do, it has to be related to what you do. You can't ask a general question about what's wrong with your health, or what are you struggling with your health. If what you do is very specifically about hormones, they might answer something completely different that you won't help them with. So you have to be very specific, both in the questions and who you're asking. And then you need to use those exact words, because basically then in the messaging, your ideal clients are going to think, how does she know me this well? How is she inside my head? They're going to be nodding like, yes, girl, I so relate. And that's what you want from your message.
Right. Because that's when they'll be really excited to work with you, because they're like,
yes,
she gets me. She knows what I want. She knows my fears. She's clearly in my brain, like analyzing me. But have you found that like most of the women that you end up working with, that their ideal client is like a previous version of themselves?
A lot of times. Yeah. I call it the mirror test. I was like, let's hold up a mirror. Now, have you ever gone through this? And usually it is. It isn't it's not 100%, but a lot of times it 100% is. And so if you don't know your ideal client, it is looking at yourself a few years ago.
Right. Because I think too that, especially for people who are like confused, I think it's a great place to start, because usually you are passionate about sharing something that you have overcome.
Yeah.
And you're recognizing
a relatable brand right there.
Right. Right. So that actually helped me too in like communication, because I was like, okay, where was I at a few years ago? What did I need? And if I don't know, then I always try to like find those people, especially if you're building an audience, like just even creating a post and asking them and getting that feedback. Like you always want that feedback.
Yeah. You don't want to really move your brand forward without that feedback.
Yeah.
Your answer should come like literally from your clients and not straight out of your head.
Yeah. Well, and even selling. So like I have an online course where women can take to learn their hormones. And when I was testing it, I did not create the content. I didn't do 1 ounce of work until someone bought it. Because I'm like, I don't want to do all this work and create something if like I either didn't communicate it well on the sales page, I'm attracting the wrong people, like something just needs to be tweaked. I'd rather spend the time tweaking the content that you're trying to sell versus like, shit, I just made this entire course.
And you're also going to find out more as you go, right?
Yeah.
It's like you're going to find out more of what's needed, or how you can position it, how you can set it up for someone to create more success for them as people are going through it.
Right. Yeah. And then getting that feedback, because so I think, what do you say to the people who are like, well, my audience doesn't respond, I'm not getting feedback? Like, What if they're like so small that they aren't necessarily getting that engagement yet?
You need to go ask people one-on-one. You need to identify people who you think are ideal clients and literally reach out to individual people and ask them if they wouldn't mind getting on the phone with you or a Zoom call with you for 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a sales call. Like you have to
Right.
sell, like, I'm not selling you anything. I'm trying to actually, understand where you're at so I can craft my offers better when it goes out into the marketplace. So it's literally, it's like even thinking about now, if it's people, it can be people, but it has to be someone who literally does fit into your ideal client profile. Right. You don't want to just say, hey mom, can you get on the phone with me, if she is not your audience. Like I tell people all the time, I was like, stop asking Aunt Phyllis what she thinks about your brand, because she knows nothing about branding.
So Phyllis is my late grandmother's first name.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That's awesome. I was like, oh, my grandmother must be with me right now if she's coming through.
I just pulled that out of the air. I don't think I've ever said Phyllis before.
Really? Sometimes I actually feel my grandmother's presence in like certain times of just like, I'm with you. So like, that's awesome. Yeah. Like my husband, one time we were driving and he's like, he said something where the tone was very much her. And he said something like, that's really nifty, which is what my grandmother used to say. And I was like, I think she's here. So, okay, I'm feeling my grandmother coming through you right now. So that is awesome.
That's so fun. Wait, the last one is to show your audience exactly who you are and what you offer. So in order to get a clear brand, you actually have to be transparent and clear in articulating it. So in order to do that, you need like a very clear statement that says these things, that becomes your superpower in how you talk about your business.
Mm-hmm. Which for me, honestly, was the hardest part, because there's so much to talk about where you can kind of just feel like overwhelmed, especially if you're thinking of it from like curating your Instagram content. But how can you break it up with whatever programs you're working on, or blog posts, or, you can basically funnel it down. But yeah, I just appreciate all of the information that you provided.
Well, and the other thing to really know is, because I think this is going back to mistakes, my goodness, there's so many of them, but you don't have to articulate every single thing about your brand in each element, right? So your logo doesn't have to say everything about your brand. Your positioning statement does not have to say everything about your brand. It's how they work. All these elements work together that actually creates the full experience of your brand, which should free you up a little bit, right? Because you need to simplify and simply think about, how can I be clear? Because that's going to be the best thing for your audience. If they understand it, they get it, they know it, they know how to hire you, they know how to work with you, all those things you just got to be really, really clear about.
Right. And like, I think too, when you're first getting started, like I would have friends who are actually better communicators than I was. I would tell them like, hey, I'm going to be like posting some stuff. Can you just like literally give me your honest feedback if things don't feel quite right?
Yeah.
And so it actually is really helpful to get criticism. Like criticism helps you grow. So if you're like, okay, the tone is off, it's a little like it's not matching you, you're saying too much in one post, it's confusing and I'm checking out. Like it's actually really helpful to get criticism from people that you know, like, and trust, and know that they have your best interest.
I have a great example of one of my clients that I worked with. So she came to me and she's like, this is what she thought the problem was, because not everybody understands what the problem is, right? She goes, I feel the need to get your help with my visual brand so that everything I'm posting feels really cohesive and aligned visually. And I was like, okay, let's dig in and figure this out. And what happened was she got so down the rabbit hole of having her Instagram feed look like other fashion blogger Instagram feeds that she looked like a workwear fashion blogger, when actually her purpose was being a career strategist for the modern workforce. I'm like, so it was her purpose that was off. It was her messaging that was off, and her visuals needed to align to it. But it's interesting because not all the time can we see where it's going wrong. And that's why we need this outside perspective and an expert eye to say, oh no, this is where you need to tweak, because then all this will then make sense.
Yeah. My favorite part of like hiring coaches, especially from the business perspective, I'll be like, can you just look at this shit and tell me
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with it? What am I not seeing? And it actually is really, it's so helpful because your head is in it all the time. You literally can't see it. And like
Yeah.
my husband will actually edit a lot of my stuff because he's blunt. He's not going to sugarcoat it. He doesn't care if he's making me like, it's really great because it gives you that outside perspective. So like hiring coaches to just be like, to just tell me what I can do to make it better, because that's how we learn, grow, get better, serve better, create a more cohesive brand that feels really good to the end user and you.
Yeah.
So you'd mentioned your brand superpower. So I know you have a freebie that you are offering everybody. So do you want to talk about your brand superpower real quick?
Yeah. So the freebie is your brand superpower in one clear statement. And really what that's about is getting started with your clarity for your brand. And so that helps tell people really what you do, who it serves, and the value that it brings. And if you know those three things to start, you're doing a really, really good job.
That's awesome. And it just goes so much into what we've been talking about today. So I'm going to leave the link for everyone to grab that in the show notes so they can really dive in and just like get started. Even if you're in business and you want to even get clearer, like clear, more concise messaging and understanding.
Yes.
It happens with each stage of growth from your business anyway.
It does. Your brand is like a living, breathing thing, and it is always evolving. So it's not something that you like figure out and write down on paper and like put it up on your shelf and never to look at again. It's literally like you want to reference your brand strategy on a daily basis when you're creating offers, when you're creating social posts, right? When you're communicating with clients, like you want to be reminded of, this is the brand I want the world to see. So this is how I need to shape it on a daily basis.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been such a pleasure getting to know you, getting to like just soak up your expertise. And
It's been so fun. Honestly, it's so nice to meet you, and I love what you're doing for women.
Oh, thank you so much. And I'm hoping to send people your way because like, guys, if you haven't seen her stuff, like it's just, you'll feel so good and just very empowered on getting started and moving forward. We all need you in our life.
Oh, that's so nice. Honestly, like one of my key brand words is to inspire. And I think that's something that I keep in mind every day in everything I do. So if you go to my website and that feels like inspiring to you, then I've done my job well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.